It's time to transform your loss into your greatest victory. And I need y'all to bear with me because I'm going to give you a couple of stories, but excuse has no victory on the podium next to success. Your tears do, your struggle does, but excuses don't. Excuse is a gateway to doubt, and doubt is a killer of faith. And so if you keep creating excuses, or you live in a world where excuses are acceptable and okay, then eventually it's going to kill the faith over time, and it's going to kill the dream over time. It's going to kill the progress over time. And so you have to get rid of it and say, okay, well, what can I do in this moment? What can I do with the situation I have? What can I do with the resources that I have to make some progress to move forward? This is such a great story, y'all. Have you ever heard of the story of where the katana was forged, the katana was built? Kuni, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, create these swords for the emperor and the emperor's army, the samurais. And one day after they were coming back from a battle, they were heavily defeated. And they were looking, just beat up. They were riding in on their horses. And Amakuni could see that their swords were broken. Even as the samurais were broken, their spirits were broken as well. They were looking defeated. They were sweating, blood's everywhere. Gears tore up, but their swords, that's what caught his attention, that they were broken. And these were swords that he had forged. They were swords that he had created. And as the emperor came by, the emperor didn't even acknowledge him. And Amakuni knew that he had to do something about this, because he couldn't allow them to continue to go out and get defeated like this. He couldn't allow his reputation, he couldn't allow everything to rest on that. So he said, I'm going to transform this loss into my greatest victory. And so he went away for a while, and he sat and he worked. He got some different kind of metal, and he worked through this forging process. He worked on folding the metal. He worked on heating it. He worked on hitting it and forming this metal into something that could be useful, more useful than they had used before, something that could be greater than what had been established before, because he knew what they had before wasn't going to work anymore. They needed something better to go against the armor that they were using with these weapons. They needed something greater to defeat their enemies, and what they had wasn't going to work anymore. So he just poured sweat, he poured pain, he poured his tears, because he felt like he wasn't honored when everyone came back with the broken swords that he had created before. And so he said, I got to take this loss. He took some personal responsibility, and he said, I got to take this loss because I created that. I created those swords before, so I got to take this loss and I got to create something out of it. I got to do something about this situation. And so he did. And so he went to work, y'all. He went to folding the metal, bending the metal, heating the metal, and just hitting the metal over time. And then he came out and he said, hey, this is the katana. This is what's going to be better than what was before. And sure enough, the samurais went into battle. And as they came back from battle, they were victorious. The swords weren't broken, and everyone was happy because now they had something that they could utilize that was greater than what they had before. It was transforming that loss into his greatest victory, y'all. And still to this day, one of the most widely known swords that we know of today, it is the katana. And this was hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And so when are you going to be in a place where you can do something that's going to last hundreds and hundreds of years in the future? In order to get to that place, you first got to work on you. You first got to get to a place where you're not blaming excuse on others. You first got to get to a place where you can take some personal accountability and then work on some personal development in order to do the things that you're called to do in this life. When Amakuni was going through the process of forging this katana sword, he went through a process of hitting. He went through a process of heating, a process of cooling, a process of bending the metal. And a lot of times as we're going through life, a lot of times as we're going on our journey, we're trying to pull ourselves or remove ourselves from this process early before we're already finished. When God says, I'm still working on you. I understand that you feel like you're getting hit everywhere. I understand that you feel like you're taking the heat everywhere. And then you're getting cooled off. And then you're taking more heat. And then you're getting hit again. And I understand that you're taking all this, but I want you to know that I am creating a masterpiece. I am creating something that's going to stand for years and years in the future. I'm creating a legacy. I'm creating a dream, and I'm getting ready to give birth to it. But first, you've got to go through the process and stop trying to be removed from the process too soon. You get removed from the process too soon, you go to battle, you get broke. You get removed from the process too soon, you go to battle and you don't finish. You go to battle and you don't complete. You go to battle and you don't find victory. You go to battle and you don't find success if you come from the process too soon. So go through the heat, stand and walk and keep going, knowing that God has called you for something greater. Keep going, knowing that God has something special for you, because it's not over. Even though you're taking the hit now, even though you're taking the heat now, that's not going to be forever, because at some point in time, you're going to get polished off. At some point in time, you're going to come out of that fire and you're going to be something to stand for. You're going to be something that everyone looks at and says, oh my God, what have you created? You've created something so great, but first you got to finish the process. So stop coming out the process too soon. Stop coming out the process before you're completely done, y'all. This is your journey. Go on your journey. Finish your journey. And once you come out of that, and here's the other thing. Stop putting your own time limits on it. Pull it out before it's done. And it's not even all the way cooked. It's not all the way finished, because we're putting our own time limit on it. We're saying we're tired of waiting. We're tired of waiting. We're tired of going through the things that we're going through. Let me tell you something about this katana sword. It also is a sword that takes one of the longest to make. Some swords you can get done with them in about a week or 2 weeks. The katana, it takes months. It takes a year of working through. First, you got to work through forging the metal and creating this sword, which takes about 3 to 6 months itself. And then they also have to work on the design of the sword, wrapping the sword, which can take up to another 6 months. And so it takes time to create such a masterpiece. And so if you are going through your process, come out the other side as a masterpiece and don't rush the process. Because if you rush the process, you won't come out as you're supposed to come out, and then you have to go back into the fire. So finish the process, y'all, and come out this thing one time as the greatest victory that God could hold and say, look what I've created. Excuses all throughout the Bible, y'all, from Hosea, Matthew, Romans, like you name it. Like God talks about excuses and just not blaming others or placing blame on others. But it's about our own personal development, because at the end of the day, you can't control another human being. At the end of the day, like you can't control somebody else. Even our kids, we can't, like our kids gonna do certain things. Like we can work on discipline, but they're gonna react in certain ways that we're not gonna expect sometimes. So you can control yourself and you can work on your own personal development. How can I discipline myself to get up when I need to? How can I discipline my mind to focus on the things I need to focus on? How can I discipline my spirit to just focus on God? Like how can I discipline myself in the right way in order to make progress or get to the path of success? I want to tell you about the man in the crowd. I've told you this story once before, and I got to tell you about it again. He was in a crowded intersection. As this man was in this crowded intersection, he sat there in this intersection and he continued to bump into people along the way. And he's trying to get to a path somewhere, and he can't make a lot of progress because he's just bumping into people. Anytime that he bumps into somebody, he places blame on them. Hey, you're in my way. Can you move? And then they disappear. And he continues to do this until there's no one else around, and it's just him in this intersection. And at this point, he still has no idea which path to take. He still has no idea which way to go, because he spent so much time just focusing on everybody else that he said was in his way that he didn't spend enough time trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I actually need to go, and what is it going to take in order for me to get there? And so that could be us at times, when we see people around us and we just keep blaming everyone else, and we got to get out of that place of blaming everyone else. Like even if you look at the Bible, like Paul, like when he was in chains and when he was in prison, he didn't place blame on anyone else. He sat there and he continued to write letters to the church. He sat there and continued to move in his purpose. He sat there and continued to do the things that he could do with the situation and the environment that he was in. But he didn't blame everybody else. But even in prison, even in chains, like his purpose couldn't be stopped. Even in chains, his success couldn't be stopped, because he had a message he had to give to the people. He had a message of success that he had to give to the people. He had love that he had to share with others. And so he continued on. And then this is your moment. This is your time. Don't be the man in the crowded intersection that is just blaming everyone else. Be Amaktuni, who saw a loss from something that he created and said, I have to do better, and then took personal accountability and then established something that was much greater than before. I love y'all. Have a blessed one. I'm out.